Hey everyone, hopefully you can hear me and see me okay. If you can't, there are a couple of things you can do. So if you see at the bottom of the screen, you have some options. One of them says participants. And if you click on that in the right corner of your screen, you should start seeing people's names and who's online. You definitely are going to want to click on the chat, which should show up underneath everybody's name, because that is where you're going to be able to make comments and ask questions. And so just make sure that it's set to go to everyone and not someone in particular. So while we're waiting for people to join, if you just want to type something in to test it out, make sure that it's there and everyone can see it. I also wanted to mention that this meeting is being recorded. So our hope is that for those that couldn't attend tonight or didn't know about it, but definitely are interested in Baker Road and the lights and the traffic, they'll be able to watch this presentation at a future date and listen to the Q&A and hopefully get some of their questions answered. So just so you know, if you are online on this meeting, anything that you put in the chat or if you turn on your video, it will be recorded and it will be put online. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm seeing people start using the chat. Just kind of put something in there and let me know.
I can, Pete, how far I can hear you? Okay.
Hi, Pete.
I'm gonna be muted. Okay.
Okay.
Where you got that, but I really appreciate everything y'all were doing. How many people we expect?
You never know. You never know.
You never know. Well, let me just hush. Okay.
All right, Frank, I see you're online. Erwin, is Matt on yet?
So Matt is in the same room with Erwin.
Okay.
And so he'll be controlling the presentation.
Okay, perfect. Let's give it just a few more minutes, just in case people are late. I know everyone's getting home and feeding dogs and children and all kinds of stuff. So I really appreciate everyone joining us tonight. Hopefully we can do more of this in the future, but in person. But for now, I think this is a good way to still try to get some information. I know Baker Road is, something a lot of y'all are interested in for Country Club Oaks. So just so you know, this invitation was only sent to the residents of Country Club Oaks. I requested this meeting with our Public Works Department because I get a lot of questions and a lot of comments about traffic control, traffic calming on Baker Road. Obviously, you guys utilize that road to get in and out of your neighborhood, most often. And so it makes sense that you would have questions about the new light that was installed or any other work that's going on in that area. So what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce our panel of speakers who are all with the City of Baytown. They're going to give a short presentation based on some of the questions and comments that I've already received about Baker Road and traffic in general. After that, we'll open it up to any questions or comments that you may have. Please type them in the comment box and they'll be able to respond verbally. That way we're not talking over each other with the mute and the unmute. So if you can type them in, that would be great. If no one has any comments or questions, or once they're already completed, I do have 4 or 5 that I got from email from folks in Country Club Oaks who said that they couldn't log in tonight, but they really wanted to get this information. And so they wanted me to share their comments and questions at the end of the presentation. So with that, it is 5:10, 10 minutes should be plenty of time to get online. So let me go ahead and let you know who is here to answer our questions tonight about Baker Road. We have Frank Semino, who is our Director of Public Works at the City of Baytown. We also have Erwin Burden, who is our Assistant Director of Public Works. And then we have Matt Johnson, who is our Traffic Engineer. So I believe, Matt, you're going to start with a presentation about Baker Road and traffic.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'll go ahead and unmute you, or go ahead and mute you, and I'll stop your video for now too. Let's see. I apologize. I'm working 4 different screens at one time. My name is Matt Johnson. I am the city's traffic engineer. I've been doing traffic for about 15 years. I am a professional traffic operations engineer and a professional transportation planner, as well as a professional engineer in the state of Texas. So with that, I will go ahead and start our presentation. And so what we are discussing tonight is the traffic signals along West Baker. Specifically, there have been some questions about right turn on reds, and okay, my clicker's not working, so I will do it the old-fashioned way. Right turn on reds, but we'll be talking a little bit about the Country Club signal, site visibility triangles, and how those relate to the Goose Creek Drive, Country Club Drive, and Quail Hollow Drive intersections. First, the Country Club signal. One of the questions that we've received is, why did this go in? When Goose Creek Reserve was first proposed as a development, the developer came in and spoke with the city, and they looked at the traffic volumes and what was likely to occur. And a traffic signal was believed to be a good idea in order to divert traffic away from Quail Hollow's signal, which wouldn't be able to handle the volume of traffic that would be coming to it. And so it was made a part of a development agreement in December of 2015, and that's how the signal got here. The next thing we'll talk about are site visibility triangles. A lot of people have an intuitive knowledge and understanding of what they are, but this is a little bit on the technical side of what they are. Essentially, a site visibility triangle is one where a driver on either approach, either the major street that doesn't have a control, or on the minor approach that does have a control, needs to be able to see the other vehicle. And the reason for this is they need to be able to perceive that there's a potential danger, react to it, and then brake if necessary. So the criteria for establishing these are based on the speed, perception time, reaction time, and the required braking distance. For West Baker, the posted speed limit is 40 miles per hour, and so we use that to establish the site triangle. As you can see here, it is a 385-foot triangle. There's a lot of guidelines and guidance that goes into where the drivers are supposed to be located to see the other vehicle. In this case, the driver's position is located about halfway between the stop bar and the crosswalk for all 3 intersections. And so it's from that perspective and that vantage point that the driver on the minor street has to be able to see an oncoming vehicle to the left before making a right turn. Also a 385-foot distance at 40 miles per hour, it translates to 6.5 seconds of travel time. So breaking down what a site visibility triangle does and the amount of time that it takes to deal with it, with another vehicle coming up or an obstruction. The first 3.5 seconds are what's known as the perception time. It gives the driver a sufficient amount of time to see that there is an issue. So it takes 3.5 seconds for a driver to recognize that there's something in front of them. Then another 1.7 seconds to actually react to it and say, okay, I see that there's a problem. I need to do something about it. And then 1.3 seconds at 40 miles per hour to actually come to a stop if necessary. Again, this is on a dry pavement. So starting with Goose Creek Drive, this picture was taken from the vantage point of the driver on the major road, which would be Baker, and looking forward from the correct position for the site visibility triangle. As you can see, it is very difficult, and it is quite a distance to see the intersection of Goose Creek Drive. You can see there's a fence here. You've got the power poles, so it's difficult to see that. This is what the driver sees on Goose Creek Drive. You can see that you've got the fence here, you've got another power pole here, and this communications pedestal here blocking this driver's view of oncoming vehicles. Now, here's the breakdown of the site visibility triangle. Having measured the distance, the first point, the green car here, it's first the location where it can first see a vehicle stopped here at the correct position with the driver halfway between the stop bar and the crosswalk. There's only 60 feet of distance that they can see. That's 1 second. So in the amount of time that it takes for the driver to recognize there's a problem, react to it, and stop is 6.5 seconds. This driver only has 1 second to react because of the site visibility issue. For Country Club Drive, here's a picture from the same vantage point of the driver approaching Country Club Drive. Again, there are bridge rails. You've got the power poles and the fence and trees blocking the view of Country Club Drive and a potential vehicle there. And here is the driver's view of Country Club, or of Baker Road with Country Club. Once again, there are several things blocking the driver's ability to see upstream of an approaching vehicle. Country Club Drive and Goose Creek Drive are very similar. In this case, the site triangle, or the ability of the approaching vehicle on Baker to see a car at Country Club, it's only 52 feet. And that's, again, giving the green car less than a second to see the vehicle, react, and brake. Here's Quail Hollow. Once again, same thing as before. You've got the power poles, you get the fences, the trees, everything like that going up there. And here's the driver's, or the Quail Hollow Drive perspective. We've got fence line, power poles, communication poles, pedestrian poles as well. And unfortunately for Quail Hollow, the visibility is even less. It's only 32 feet. That's approximately half a second of perception, reaction, and braking time in order to react to someone turning right on red. That is essentially the presentation. If you do have any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat and we can address them.
Okay. Can you hear me, Matt?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we have something from Marie. Well, okay. How many accidents have there been on Baker at the intersections? And if you can start maybe your video or my video so that we're looking at each other, that would be great.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I did.
That's okay.
I will start yours and I will turn off my screen share so that y'all can see. Oh,
Perfect.
okay.
All right. How many accidents have there been on Baker at these intersections? Do you have any like rough idea?
I do not. I would have to speak with Corporal Isnaga to figure that out and to find out from him how many we've had. So I do not know, but I will write that question down and get that information.
We'll send out that answer to that question, Marie, when we send out the link to the video, like through the newsletter. Can the fences that block the view be adjusted back to open up the visibility?
They can. Unfortunately, those property owners, they legally have their fences placed. They're in the correct location. It was just that when the subdivision was developed many, many years ago, the lot lines were placed not thinking about the site visibility triangle issue. I believe the Country Club Oaks was established, I want to say back in the 60s. And so typically the speeds were slower and on the roadways. And so it was more uncommon for things like this to occur. So they can be, it would just be it would be down to the property owners who have their fences in their legally allowed locations.
Okay, Marie says that we currently turn right on red at Quail Hollow.
Then I need to check to see if that sign was removed because it's supposed to be restricted.
You might have just got yourself a new sign, Marie. All right, here's one I got via email, Matt. It says, can the city change the light at Goose Creek Drive in Baker to a motion activated one? Because I believe Bush and Stonehenge and Country Club and Baker are motion, but I don't believe the light at Goose Creek Drive and Baker is motion related.
So that's a very good question. We actually use vehicle detection equipment. And depending on which intersection it is, it depends on which equipment we're using. If you look down around the city as you're approaching the intersection, and if you see a little black dot that's about this big around on the ground, you've got about a 90% chance that that piece of tar is actually your vehicle detector. And so what they use, it's a magnetometer detector. So it reads the metals in your vehicle to send a signal to the traffic signal to let it know that there's a car there. If you aren't pulled up far enough, or if you're not on top of it, or unfortunately, if you're riding a motorcycle and you're not sitting on top of it, then you're not going to set off the detection. I do know that Goose Creek and Country Club and Quail Hollow are all, they all have detection activated. What you may be experiencing is the fact that the Baker Road corridor is an adaptive signal corridor, which means that we give special, I shouldn't say special, we time it to give priority to the traffic on Baker. And so sometimes the side street traffic has to wait a little bit longer than they maybe did before getting a green light. And the reason for that is because of the closely spaced signals right there. In order for that to not cause an incredible amount of congestion along Baker, we had to set it up as an adaptive corridor so it could deal with the traffic.
Okay. Are the lights on Baker synchronized? Because they sure don't seem like they are.
We're still working at the Goose Creek signal, or not, sorry, not the Goose Creek, the Country Club signal came online mid last year or mid to late last year. And so we're still working out the progression and making sure that it gets into technical stuff. We're still working at the kinks and making sure that it is synchronized properly. It is synchronized, just sometimes it doesn't work just right. But I will tell you this. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
How long is it going to take you guys to kind of work out those kinks so that we have 3 synchronized lights?
Actually, I started diagnosing 2 other signals, or 1 other signal along Baker this morning. So hopefully it won't be too long. But do notice that if you are driving along almost any of our long corridors, especially Main or Garth or Baker, or even State Highway 146 on the east side of town, if you're driving the speed limit, you should hit, if you hit the first green, you should be able to hit green all the way through your corridor. That's we base the amount of time that it takes to get from one intersection to the next on the speed limit.
Okay, and I'm going to go back to Marie when she said that there's never been a no right on red sign at Quail Hollow, and Marie's lived there for a while. So maybe when we get the accident information, it would be good to compare if there has been any accidents at the intersection where there has been a no turn sign and one where there hasn't been one, and see if there's any difference.
That's a good idea.
At all. All right, here's another one that I got on email. And you may have already answered it, but I'm gonna read it because they asked me to. I wanted to mention that the traffic light at Goose Creek Drive in Baker takes a long time to turn green when we're leaving the Country Club neighborhood. The new light that was installed across the bridge at Baker and Country Club seems to be faster at changing when triggered by cars. It would be nice if the light leaving our side of the neighborhood worked more efficiently based on traffic needs. So is that the kinks you're still trying to work out?
No, that has a lot to do with the detection. We get this question about one of the 3 signals, and it varies week to week as to which one we get the questions about. But we generally check on a weekly basis to see that the signal strength from the detection pods are working properly. And sometimes there are failures with the equipment. That's the reason why we check them so often. We can check those. We can definitely check those again to make sure that they are working properly.
Okay. In my opinion, the addition of the new light has only brought about negatives. It has done nothing to curb the speed of traffic down Baker. In fact, people appear to be speeding up to beat the light. Now, not only do I have speeding behind my house, but cars idling there as well.
I'm so sorry, man.
Yeah. So there wasn't really a question there. That was more of a comment. So let me just kind of ask you something, Matt, in an abstract. So, I mean, obviously you are monitoring traffic all across the city. not just Baker Road. And I imagine you get similar requests or complaints, at 10 different neighborhoods, on 10 different days. But, I think enough people in this neighborhood at least question some of these traffic calming measures, whether it's the no right on red or, the excessive use of the traffic signals. And these people drive that area way more than you and I do. So
Yes.
what would it take on the city's behalf to assess it and say, okay, the people who are literally using this area day in and day out are saying it's not working, even though it goes against all of our models. What kind of process or assessment could the city do, knowing you have stuff all over town, to verify or see if these concerns are valid or if it's subjective? Like, what kind of process could we request to help do an assessment, and what kind of time frame would something like that take with all the other stuff you're working on?
Well, first, we actually had, Madam Betancourth, as you know, we had this discussion at work session, last council meeting. There's a little bit of a misconception that traffic signals and stop signs and things like that are traffic calming measures. They're not intended to be. Those are control measures. Those are congestion mitigation measures. Basically, traffic calming, if you can get a ticket for violating it, that's not traffic calming. That's so in a lot of cases, it's an issue of enforcement over a traffic calming situation. But to answer your question, Madam Betancourth, what we would end up doing is perform, in the case of Baker, we would end up doing a speed study to determine if the posted speed limit is acceptable. A speed study is essentially I'm so sorry, I just saw that there are a couple more people coming in. A speed study is used to establish the speed limit for a roadway, and it is 100% dependent upon safety and what the roadway users feel is a safe speed to drive. And as a traffic engineer, we collect data and we quantify what that speed is. And if we were to go out and do a speed study and determine that more 85% of the people driving on Baker feel safe doing 50, then the state requirement would be that we raise the speed limit from 40 to 50. Because if you artificially hold down the speed limit, you end up with people who are expecting drivers to drive the speed limit, and they're not. They're driving faster. And so it creates a violation of driver expectations, and we end up with more complaints and more accidents because people are expecting other people to drive slower, and they're not. So a lot of times when people ask me, what can we do about the speed limit on such and such roadway? If I recognize that people do drive faster there, and it's a lot of the people who drive faster, I recommend that we keep an eye on it and maybe increase enforcement before we start doing an actual study.
Okay. And I feel like a lot of people are concerned with the excessive amount of time they have to wait to turn right out of the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so are there other options or assessments we could do that would potentially relieve that for them, like a dedicated turn lane, or maybe the accident report shows that there's no difference between the intersection that has a no turn on right on red versus one that does? Is there a process to maybe assess the validity of that concern?
Yes, ma'am. I can run a number of reports remotely to see how much time is allocated during each red, yellow, green cycle at specific times. So if one of our residents was concerned that a traffic signal or a certain phase or their approach was not, that they weren't getting the green time correctly, then if they can let me know within, say, a 15-minute or a 30-minute period of when that occurred, you don't have to call me within 30 minutes. Just let me know like the 30-minute time window of when that occurred. I can check our system to see if there was an issue. And there have been, I've got a handful of residents around the city who are very good at letting me know this. And in a lot of cases, they're right. But the most common situation is that someone isn't pulling up far enough, or there's that they're not triggering the detection. However, a dedicated right turn lane is a great idea. What we have to contend with is the lack of right of way to construct the dedicated right turn lane. If we don't have the room, we don't have the room, and we can't put it in. But one of the things that we can do, and that I will be taking a look at, is how much priority is put on the side streets for these intersections. And we will be analyzing these because we are, like I said, we're still working out the kinks. And so we'll take a look at that and see if there's the possibility of increasing the priority level on the side streets.
I wonder if it would be helpful, and this is a super cheap option, if you think that maybe people aren't pulling up far enough to trigger the lights, if we could just paint on the road, like pull up to here, or I don't know, and see if that makes a difference. That would be a really cheap, potential solution. And then if they get back to us and say, no, it's not working, then, we know it's not like them not pulling up far enough. I don't know, just throwing that out there. For the couple of you that just came in late, Matt did show a presentation about Baker Road and the history of the lights there and the no right turn on red signs. We are recording this meeting, so once it's over, we will post it online if you want to go back and look at it. But if you have any questions or comments for Matt or anyone in Public Works, if you'll type them into the chat, we can ask them. I do only have one more that I got online. It's kind of it's traffic related, Matt. That's not on the exact subject, but it says that the street name Country Club Drive should end at the end of our subdivision. This is a completely different subdivision. Just as Cinda Brook turns into Bush and Bush turns into San Jacinto, Country Club Drive should cease at the end of our subdivision. Who is the czar of street naming and where streets start and pick up?
So actually our planning and development department, they actually are the holders of that process. And they actually do have a form for requesting the name change of a street. So our planning and development group would be the ones to talk to and to see what that process is.
Okay. And then I had one more thought since Frank and Nick are online, because you had mentioned that if people could give you feedback about the times that it's taking from when they pull up to when they get the green light to go. I can't imagine you have enough time in the day to possibly field all the phone calls that you would get to do this. And so I'm wondering, Frank and Nick, if there is maybe an item we could put on the City of Baytown app to where the residents can use the app and there's something specific for Baker Road or those intersections, and they can just easily like get on the app, tap that line item, say it took 15 minutes or, 10 minutes or, whatever it is that Matt is wanting to know. That may be an easier way for you to collect that kind of data than fielding phone calls and emails from residents, 10 times a day. Because I know Matt has his plate full. We definitely send him around the city on all kinds of street and traffic requests.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the comment.
There's a lot.
The app does have, I think, a traffic menu selection. So if they just select, traffic issue and submit that, it would get to Matt.
Yes.
They don't have to really, I don't think we need to change the app to have something specific to Baker, but if they'll just put that into the comments, it will get to him.
Yeah, JC and Sonia, who receive a lot of that information that comes in, they are very good about forwarding it on. And for those of you who may be curious about what it is that we look at, I'm going to show you what I see when I look at our system. So can you all see my, Betancourth, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. This is our adaptive signal system. It's our interface. When you see these lights turn, this is the Goose Creek at West Baker. When you see this blue light or these little dots change color, like this one's blue right now, that means that there is a car waiting for the light, and that detector is active. And right now, all three of these detectors that are out there are operating well within limits. Now, there are certain times of the day when it is more, when signal strength goes down because you've got more people coming through and bandwidth is shrunk. But essentially, this is what we look at to see if the detection zones are operating correctly. And I could have sworn I had that off. So this is what we look at. And here is Baker at Quail Hollow. I'm sorry, this is Bush at Baker. I collected the wrong one there. Here's Baker at Quail Hollow. So here we see this yellow one. That means that it doesn't have a good enough communication strength. But these others are all active and working well right now. So that's what we see when we are checking on the traffic signals that we have.
Okay. Well, I think we're about to wrap it up. Pete, are you still there? Did you have any comments? I know you have a lot of history and knowledge about this area.
It's been a very interesting presentation. Being an engineer, I can relate to some of the things that Erwin was talking about and getting all this data. And I think your idea of maybe identifying either having a sign to identify where the indicator, speed indicators are, so that the old days, I think we used to have them installed underneath the pavement, and when the car touched it, it was like a relay or a pressure switch that activated the lights itself. But now it's a lot more modern, but still your idea of doing that is fantastic. And the speed that the 0.5 second and 0.9 second, I forgot what Goose Creek was. I didn't get a chance to write it down, but it's amazing that kind of information that we all need to have, and so. But I know that when we first put the no right turn from Goose Creek, I think I told you that Councilman Don Murray was one that suggested that from a safety standpoint, just wanted it because we were having a bunch of accidents here at that time. But your data about trying to come out, just find out, look, being old fashioned like I am, data really supports a lot of decisions. You got to have it. Just you can think about it, and I think so. But again, on behalf of the old people here like me and Country Club, really want to thank you, Heather and Erwin and all of the city of Baytown for working. And yes, I have more history, but I don't have the time to do it right now, Heather. So, but thank you for allowing me to say thank you to all the group for everything that we're doing to just make this town as the best town we can make it. Thank you.
And Mr. Alfaro, to answer your question, it's 1 second is the amount of time that the driver has on Baker.
Thank you. I got it written down now.
Yes, sir.
Being 80 years old, it's a little different than some of the younger people, So I got my notes, but I think it's really, you did a great job, and appreciate all the work you're doing. So we
Thanks,
appreciate it, not just me.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, I got one last question. Pleased to have this opportunity for information and input. How will the video be accessed? So I'm hoping Sabrina will agree to upload this video to Baytown Engage, which is a new website. If you haven't gone to it, I highly recommend it. And hopefully we can put it there or somewhere else that is centralized, and I can just simply send a link to Rhonda and she can put it in the neighborhood newsletter and on the neighborhood's Facebook page. That way you guys can access it, whenever you want. So Josh here says, the length of time for green lights from Country Club to Baker is very short. People on Baker run red lights, and sometimes only one car can make it out of the neighborhood. So Josh is saying that the timing's not bad, but people's following of the traffic rules is not so good. What would be our suggestion to help with that, Matt?
I can call dispatch, and if we can have an idea of when those red light runners are occurring, we can ask patrol to go over there and increase their watch on that corridor. One of the things that as traffic engineers and that we have to deal with in this day and age, a lot of times, especially in Texas now, with signal timing, is that in a lot of cases, if you have a car in front of you or there's two cars in front of you and you're waiting at a red light, there's a fairly decent possibility that somebody in one of those two cars is playing on their phone or reading a text message or something like that, because they obviously by law, they're not supposed to be doing it while they're driving, but when they're stopped, it's acceptable, so they do so. And their reaction time, as you noticed, we were talking about the perception time for reacting to the vehicles pulling out in front of them. It's 3.5 seconds. If somebody is watching the light, waiting for it to turn green, they're going to hit it in a half second before their foot hits the gas pedal. But if they're playing on their phone or they're distracted, then there's that time extends. And so if you're the third car back, the first person doesn't pay attention, takes 2 seconds. Then the next person, it takes them a second or two more to see that the car in front of them is moving. Well, by that time, our system is assuming that because there's not a lot of progression over the detection, that there aren't very many cars. And it says, okay, not very many cars, I'll put the time back on Baker. So I am absolutely not advocating towards somebody gunning the engine as soon as they see green, but that's one of the things that we do have to contend with, is that people are distracted, they're not paying attention, and we get the calls saying that there's not enough green time. And we'll put in 30 seconds worth of green time, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're trying to get several cars out of an intersection, 30 seconds is a long, long time. So we'll take a look and see how much green time is allocated to it, to each of those side streets. That's the best we can do, and hope that people stop playing on their phones when they're sitting at the lights.
Fat chance. Rhonda says, how about longer yellows?
The amount of red time and the amount of yellow time, those are actually set by equations that have been derived over decades of experience. And we use those to establish what the yellow time is. And we are very hesitant to extend a red time or extend a yellow time, because if you have three traffic signals, three traffic signals going along, and they have an extra second of yellow time, what happens when you get down to Cinderbrook/Bush and it doesn't have that extra yellow and you were counting on it? And then you've got somebody coming down Baker south towards Cinderbrook, and they've got, your light has now gone red because you thought that you had an extra second of yellow and you don't, and then you get hit. That's the reason why we are very, very hesitant to change or extend yellow times at traffic signals, because it's called driver expectation, and it'll violate it for other traffic signals and other timing programs.
Okay. Well, thanks, Matt. And thank you, everybody. I counted we have 13 online and only 5 are staff members. So whenever there's more citizens than staff, I consider that a successful meeting. Not to mention the 5 people that emailed me and said that they couldn't make it tonight, but had questions, and they'd definitely be watching the video later. So I really appreciate everybody's participation in this meeting. I hope you got some good information out of it. We may have not solved the problem today, but at least we're more informed, and we now know who the subject matter experts are at the city that are helping us work out these issues. If you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to let me know, and I will work with Public Works on getting this video uploaded to some kind of website platform, and then I will share it with you all through Rhonda, and she can share it through y'all's normal communication channels. All right, and thank you, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.